Hello everyone, and welcome back to Rust Rocket Nation. My name is Junior. Today we're going to be working on the Ranger. Right after I fixed the suspension on it, the slave cylinder blew out for the clutch, and it's a concentric slave cylinder, actually sits around the throwout bearing. So instead of just being able to change an external slave, I have to drop the transmission and change the internal slave. I started messing on that before and I couldn't get a bolt out, but now, as you can see, I have a garage because in between videos I have moved. So without further ado, we're going to get it up on ramps and jack stands and whatnot and see about dropping this transmission. So as you can see, I've already got the drive shaft out, and all that was right back there. It was 12 millimeter bolts. So 12 millimeter bolts that were, I had to buy a 12 point socket because I didn't own one. But as far as I know, that's the only 12 point on the truck. Now, if you look right here, that's the bracket that was causing me a problem, because the transmission cross member runs across, and instead of bolting to the frame, it bolts up on the side here, and oh god, it's got a bushing. That bushing is what's causing me all the trouble, because that bolt is seized in the bushing. Like, I can hit it with an impact and it turns the bolt and the sleeve inside. So what I'm going to try to do is, I saw a thing online about grabbing that bushing with vice grips and then hitting the bolt with an impact. We're going to see if that works. And yes, not only am I terrible enough to use chrome sockets on my impact, but also a 1/2 inch to 3/8 adapter. This will work or it won't. First, I'm just going to hit it with the impact to make sure she still turns and isn't rusted. It is turning, but like I said, it's not coming free of that damn bushing, so I'm going to get a set of vice grips and try that. So there you can see I got the vice grips on the bushing. I had to use the needle nose type. The rounded type wouldn't get big enough, but we're going to attempt this. Let it, well, I don't know how well that worked, but now I'm gonna get a hammer and see if I can hit that bolt out. Okay, so PB blaster and a hammer didn't work, so I'm going up for plan B. I got the bolts pulled out of the transmission cross member, or out of where it holds the transmission, and I'm gonna pull that bolt on the other side because I've had it off before, and I'm gonna let this swing down and try to get as much pressure as possible off this. See if I can't beat it out or something, because it's loose and it spins, it just doesn't come out. I forgot to mention, this is the bolt that was in the other side with 2 washers and the nut. So obviously I wasn't the first one to have this problem, because that is not the stock bolt. So they got the old one out and just put a new one with some washers in, which I would be happy to do if I could get the old one out. Okay, so I got the other side off, trans held up by a jack, cross member off, and now this thing, if I put my impact on it, spins pretty freaking freely. And oh, was that a wiggle? I swear I saw a wiggle. But I still can't get it out yet. So we're gonna use my foot over here to try to grab my big hammer. Oh God. Oh. Readjust our lighting situation. And lay down on the other side. And I am absolutely mangling the threads on this bolt, by the way. It's still not coming out, and I don't know why. Well, using a pry bar, I got to where you can actually see the problem. That metal disc on the outside there is seized to the bolt. If you look at this side, I got it pried off a little bit more, but I don't know what to do from here. Well, the bolt still won't come out, so I think there's only one option. That's half of it done. There we go again. Well, the GoPro died. But so far, I have cut it, spun the bolt, cut it, spun the bolt, cut it, spun the bolt, because my grinder is hitting on that bushing. My cutoff wheel isn't big enough to get all the way through. And it still won't come out. That bolt does not want to come out. Well, there it is. Like an hour later and a new cutoff wheel. And there's the bolt and the sleeve it was seized to, leaving me with hollow bushings. But we can replace that bolt now. Alright, now with the pain in the butt that is step 2 out of the way, we can move on to step 3. Alright, so it looks like my next step is to undo the transmission mount brackets, because the exhaust hanger runs to the transmission mount. So I'm going to unbolt those, let this transmission sag, and see if I can get to all the bolts to take it off the motor. Let's hope. This has fought me every step of the way on everything I've done to it, so let's hope for once things just go okay. Alright, 2 19mm bolts. Our trans mount is out of the way, which means our exhaust hanger mount just swings out of the way. I got a wire that runs from the O2 sensor that might need unplugged. I got a wire on this side that does need unplugged, probably another one up there. Then I should be able to let this thing sag and see if I can get to all the bolts. Let's see. Alright, so I pulled the O2 sensor plug and these two plugs that go up front on top of the transmission, and I'm pretty sure I can leave all the other ones because they're attached to the transmission. I think one of these is speed sensor, but beyond that I dropped the jack holding the transmission so it's sagging down, so hopefully I can get to some of the bolts. And of course I got my little homemade makeshift pan because I spilled a buttload of transmission fluid on the ground because I'm not a smart man. So we're gonna see what bolts I can get to. Maybe reset my jack stands because they're in the way. Reset those, see what bolts we can get to, and see if we can start actually dropping this transmission. For once I actually remembered to unbolt my battery before messing with the starter, so I'm gonna pull that terminal first. There's the 2.3 liters of raw power. Ha 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 ha. No. Anyway, I'm gonna unbolt the battery terminals, unbolt the starter, and then start working on those bell housing bolts. Alright, it appears the internet was wrong. According to what I read online, the 2.3 has a bell housing bolt that's 10 millimeters, while the 3.0s have a bell housing bolt that's 12. Mine's a 2.3 and it's actually a 13, which is what my starter bolts are too, so hey, I don't have to worry about using the 1/4 inch. And I remembered I had a second set of sockets anyway, so now we're gonna get to it. Alright, starter. Oh, shit. Starter's unbolted and dangling, which revealed another bolt that bolts from engine side to transmission side. Hopefully there's not too many of those, but we'll see. I definitely removed the battery. Remembered, even though I specifically said, I definitely remembered to remove the battery before messing with the starter wires. That is 100% a thing that I did and not something I forgot. So now, luckily, because the bell housing bolts are a 13, not a 12, I can use my extension without the 1/4 inch adapter. So now we're going to start pulling those. I'm going to get all the ones I can see on this side and then flip around to the other side. Junior's quick tip of the day: if you're like me, and this is going to be a multi-day, possibly multi-week project, when you take bolts out, either put them back with what they go to, or old school tip, if you don't have a bolster or anything like that, some labeled sandwich bags. See, I got my drive shaft bolts, my starter bolts, so that when I go to put it all back together, I'm not staring at a pile of bolts going, what goes where? Junior's quick tip number 2, if, like, for instance, you're pulling bell housing bolts that have been in there since 1997 and they don't want to come out, remember, we have the technology. Alright, so from right here where the oil pan and the motor meet the transmission, you can get to 6 of the 8 bolts that hold it. You can see right there where the bottom 2, I put them back in because I'm going to pull the top 2 first, and I don't want the transmission to fall out until I can get it jacked up. But up here there are 2 more which I've pulled already, but one on that tab and one on that tab right there, and one tucked away way up in the corner, probably can't see. And on this side you got one where right above the starter, and one way up there tucked away by my exhaust manifold. You might be able to see the hole, I'm not sure, but I got those all go from motor side to transmission side. I've got them all pulled. Now I'm going to sag my transmission as much as I can and see if I can get the top 2 pulled out, pull that hydraulic line, see if I can't get this whole transmission out. Okay, all the transmission bolts are out except those two I put back in to hold the transmission, which is also being held up by a jack just for safety's sake. And after much time and effort, I got the clutch line disconnected. It just involved pushing this clip in and then pulling the clutch line out. The problem was that it was stuck, so it wouldn't push in or out. So I had to do what I saw on a YouTube video. A guy gave me a tip: take a 12mm wrench, put around it, tap it with a hammer to get it to where it'll work back and forth. I had to do that, push the clip in, tap it in again, and it would push the clip out. I'd push the clip back in, tap it in again, and just work it back and forth until I finally got the clutch line out. So now clutch line's out, everything's unplugged. All I gotta pull are the 2 bolts that I've already pulled, and then should be able to get the transmission out. Thank God. Pulled the shifter, got the transmission out of the truck with the help of my nephew. Unfortunately, this tab right here got caught on my exhaust. I didn't pull off, so I might have lost some transmission fluid. Just a bit. Okay, maybe more than a bit. But kitty litter to the rescue. This will work, I'm sure. This is going to take a lot of kitty litter. I'll be back. Okay, so 2 10mm bolts, one right there, one right there. Slave cylinder came out pretty simply. I could tell that throwout bearing is not great either, so I need to replace it too. Luckily, I ordered one from FTE on Rock Auto, and it was supposed to be pre-filled with a throwout bearing installed. The problem is, I ain't no throwout bearing, and I had this sitting around for literal months, so I can't even return it and get the right one. But my local O'Reilly's did have one in stock with the dust boot and metal base and throwout bearing, so the better one anyway. It was like $65. So now let's get that installed and then start putting everything back together. You can hear how excited I am, can't you? It also came with a metal clutch line disconnect tool, which would have been handy earlier, but at least I got the old one off. So I was reading the instructions. I know sacrilege was something I still sometimes do. And you gotta love when it says Ford Ranger and Mazda B series with internal slave cylinders are very challenging and require specific bleeding procedures. Please consult the website for bulletins, videos, or call tech support prior to installing. You gotta love when it calls out your vehicle specifically for being a pain in the ass. So I guess I'm gonna go inside and try to read that bulletin or watch that video or whatever to see how to get fluid into this son of a bitch. I'll see you guys in a minute. Okay, the kit I bought from O'Reilly's came with a new O-ring and plastic clip. These are the old ones, and just for the sake of showing you guys, I will put my fat head in the line of the light, but I put the new O-ring and new plastic clip on the old master cylinder line that runs to the slave. And here we have our new upgraded metal base slave cylinder and the stock 10mm bolts that hold it on. So let's get it put back in the transmission. Alright, I'll try to do this in a way where I don't block the camera, but should just take, ooh, that's a nice throwout bearing. Line up the tabs on the inside. I may have to pull that out, but we'll see. Yeah, I gotta pull the little stopper out. There we go. Line it up, slide it in, slide it on that little lip. Then take these 10mm bolts, put them in. Get them both started. Okay. I don't know what the torque specs are for this, but they weren't on there very tight. So I'm just gonna go snug. Snug as a bug in a rug. Okay, snug and then a quarter turn. Snug and a quarter turn. Simple as that. Then you're done. That's the new slave installed. Now I just gotta go through the process of getting the transmission back in. That's gonna be fun. I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but I went ahead and re-put in the little plastic stopper so I don't get grease and grime in there while installing it. And there's the bleeder valve. They just come right through the side of the transmission like that. One thing to note before I forget to mention it, there are two different size bell housing bolts. There's 2 1/8 and 2 1/2. According to what I found online, the top are 2 1/8. The bottoms are 2 1/2. Alright, here it is like another 2 weeks later. I'm about to try to get the transmission on my jack over there up under the truck and see if I can do it by myself or if I need to actually call in backup. I had help getting it out and that worked barely. It was a massive pain in the butt, so getting it back in is going to be even more fun. Well, give me a minute and let's see if we can get it on the jack and up under. That was actually easier than I thought. After about 5 minutes of messing around, I found out a spot right here, or at least with the jack fully down, it'll balance. So now I get to attempt to slide the jack sideways up under the truck, and it looks like I'm going to hit the frame rail. I may have to take it off the jack, raise up the front a bit more, then put it back on the jack. We'll see. I'm going to mess around. Probably not going to record that because that's boring, but I'm going to mess around and I'll get back to you guys when I get it up under there. Alright, transmission is back under the truck. It was easier to do it the simple, not stupid way and just slide the transmission under to where the hole for the transmission tunnel was, then just lift the back of the transmission, slide the jack in with my foot, and here we are. But the question is, can I get it up there by myself? I could sure try. Also, I would just like to point out how much better this GoPro is in low light than my old GoPro. This is one of the black ones. It's quite nice. Alright, let's put this light back there. Alright, so I'm going to attempt to get the jack somewhere where it halfway balances, get it up around that exhaust pipe, which is going to be a nightmare, and get it slid in. Let's see if we can do it. Taking a small break, but transmission's like 90% of the way in. I'm just having a hell of a time getting the input shaft lined up by myself. That makes it a little hard. Having no one to guide me or anything. I just gotta play it by ear and feel. But we are making progress. Yay. Alright, thanks to the help of Willie, transmission's back in, drive shaft's back in. Everything's back together. Cross members in with the new bolt that I replaced on that side. Now we just got to bleed the clutch and see if this actually fixed it. First though, before bleeding the clutch, I'm actually gonna use this convenient top hole to refill the transmission fluid I dumped all over the ground. So that first, then bleed clutch, then see if it works. Well, there it is, down on its wheels for the first time in months. It's the next morning. We gravity bled the clutch, had to bleed it, I want to say 3 times. Had a weird issue where like we would get clutch pedal feeling back, and then it would, the moment we started the truck, it would just all go away. So we bled it with the truck running. I don't know if it's power assisted clutch or what was going on, but we just bled it with the truck running. It was like the 4th time bleeding it, got some more air out of it, and it's working. I pulled it forward, I pulled it back, it worked, it went into gear, all that. So now I get to do some car shuffling around. Mustang's parked in front of the garage, but get some car shuffling done, and I'm gonna take it down to the gas station, grab some energy drinks, see if it works now. Got the garage door open, Mustang moved, and then it dawned on me I should probably check the tire pressure of the truck that's been setting for the better part of a year. So I'm gonna do that, clean out the bed, then I'm gonna go check if it'll make it to the gas station and back. Well, there it is, out in the sun again. Went into first, backed out just fine, went into reverse, went into first. I'm gonna try to find a way to mount the GoPro and then take you on a little ride along as we see if it goes through all the gears again. God, I hope so. If anyone knows what that random beeping noise is, please comment, because that's been going on for years now and I have no idea what it is. Also, I couldn't find my GoPro mount, so I can't show the drive to the gas station, but what I can show is down in reverse, ease off the clutch, we start moving, over in first, ease off the clutch, and we are in fact pulling forward. So, slave cylinder works, thank goodness. In first and reverse, I'm gonna drive to the gas station. I'm gonna get some energy drinks, figure out what I'm doing next. Probably editing this video, but I'll do an outro once I get back and give you an update. Well, we made it to the gas station just fine. It's right down the road from my house. I did notice clutch is gonna need bled more. It's almost all at the bottom of the pedal, so it's like nothing releases, and then it's like unreleases nothing. So probably gonna have to bleed it a couple more times. I did read online that bleeding the clutches on these is a pain, and it's hard because of how the master cylinder is mounted, but for now it's working. I'm gonna take you around the block a couple times and then I'm gonna go home. So drove it around the block a few times. Clutch definitely needs bled a couple more times, but it runs and drives under its own power again. It's been almost a year since this broke on me. I finally got around to fixing it. It's been probably about a month of working on it. That's mostly just because I would get disheartened and stop, like when I couldn't get something done. Realistically, probably about 3 days worth of constant work instead of just bits and bobs here and there. But thank you all for watching. This has been Rust Rocket Nation. I have been Junior. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. And I'll see you in the next one, where who knows what I'm doing. I might be working on the RX-8. I might bite the bullet and buy a lowering kit for this after I bleed the clutch and get it not so sloppy. But thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.